Awesome. So for those of you who haven't already accessed this campus for Airbnb, it is very straightforward. I actually had created an ebook here a long time ago. I gave this out for free when I first started my Airbnb journey. It just gives everyone the general overview of really the basics of an Airbnb business. But of course, today I'm going to be going over a live example of what it's going to take. I'm also going to share some of the experiences I've had, walk you through some of the properties that I've managed and I've had, as well as currently like where I'm at with my journey. And then I'm just gonna cover pretty much realistically, if you're looking to get into Airbnb, whether it be worth it for you or not, will be for you to decide. But I just want to give you a really, really rough idea of how profitable they can be, as well as how much work it does take, right? And this is realistically going to give you guys that based on my experience because I've been in the Airbnb space for over 2.5 years. And we scaled our business from zero to over 125K plus in a year. So we managed to actually drive a lot of volume. We managed a short portfolio, but we did luxury listings and so forth. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. Some of the listings that we recently took down to negotiate contracts and et cetera. But in the meantime, I want to go over the general basis of what is Airbnb, what is it going to take to get started, and why is this so profitable for a lot of people? And is it something to get into in 2025, right? We're going to dive into that. So, quick summary, right? As we dive into the business structure. I'm going to cover how to get that started. But first, I'm just going to go through a quick overview of what is Airbnb. So for those of you who don't know what Airbnb is, I'm going to cover just the basics, right? And we cover this in the course. This is a course that goes step by step on how to start an Airbnb business, very simplified. And I curated for beginners, right? I made this course about a year and a half ago. And it was for those people who were looking to get into Airbnb and just needed a kickstart, right? Obviously, I offered a mentorship, a one-on-one mentorship to really dive deep and work on one-on-one on relationships on how to get things up and rolling. But this was mainly for people who want to get started, and it gave them the tools to really do it on their own. Um, but it's mainly a kickstart, right? Because it gets deeper and deeper. It gets more structured. The more you scale, the more intense it gets, the more systems you need. But in the beginning, it's just a basic general startup, and this is what I'm teaching here in this specific course. So it's very generalized. But when we're dealing with Airbnb, guys, Airbnb is a place that connects travelers, individuals, and businesses who have an available spaces to rent, right? It's a multi-million dollar industry. 1.4 million people sign up every week to book on Airbnb for the first time, which is crazy if you think about it, right? And these statistics were based off of like a year and a half ago, right? It operates in 191 countries. Um, right? The passive income in this can equal financial freedom once the systems are built. And you can plug into your current lifestyle and generate passive income. And it really is one of those things where you don't have to be full time. And there's two ways you can go about Airbnb that I'm going to be covering, and it's called co-hosting and hosting, right? So there's two approaches. And then we have no real estate background is needed. You guys don't need to have any extensive real estate background. You just need to have basic customer service level and a little bit of hospitality, right? Like if you guys have hosted family members, you know what that's like, right? Make sure you got a clean bed for them and all that kind of fun stuff. Passive income without headaches. Now that's dealing more so with the co-hosting, but again, we're gonna dive into that, and it's completely scalable from anywhere in the world. So yeah, right systems allow you to do so. Some markets don't allow you to do so as much due to certain circumstances, but I'm gonna again cover that as well. And then hosts can earn up to 97% of all bookings. Airbnb only takes 3%, which is fair, right? Airbnb only taking 3% is not bad. It also depends too, from tax purposes. Like for example, I'd run operations in Mexico, and they tax you pretty hefty, right? Especially if you're from the U.S. And then it connects travelers with individuals or businesses who have available spaces to rent. All right, so it's great. Now, this is a general overview of what you typically can potentially make. We'll use an Airbnb versus going the long-term route, right? Because normally tenants have this idea that, they're used to getting things done this one way. There's very one-dimensional mindset of I have one tenant and I'm gonna make money for X amount of time, and when the time comes and the lease ends, I just fill it with someone else. That route is typically, a monthly revenue. And after they consider the mortgage or whatever the rent may be, insurance, right, they're going to profit maybe 400 a month out of that, right? Because you think about rent, when you're paying your rent and your rent right now is 1,500, the landlord's not making that much, guys. They're making a few hundred extra a month, even though it's passive for them. It's still not a lot. Because let's say you ruin it and you put a security deposit of 1,500, but the damage is worth 3,000, you just ate half of the annual profit. Literally, you just ate half of the annual profit for the simple fact that they they're not using a model that is bringing a lot of monthly profit versus if I were to take the Airbnb route and I did generate 10,000 in revenue, then ideally you'd be paying the mortgage, then you cover the insurance, the Wi-Fi, utilities, all this stuff, right? Because usually here the Wi-Fi utilities is taken care of by the tenant, right? That's not something the landlord takes care of. But in this case, the person managing the unit it's all part of their expenses. So you're dealing with cleaning fees and you're dealing with supplies. Cleaning fees, you don't necessarily take out of your bottom line, but it can be for cleaning supplies because the guests always pay for the cleaning. So whenever you book an Airbnb, you're paying for your cleaning or for the Airbnb cleaning once it's done. And you'll also see that when you check an Airbnb listing, you have what's called a cleaning fee, right? Then you got the supplies. And then the monthly profit, right? So you could be profiting a potential of 6,800 versus the 400, right? On the typical, right? And let's say you even only did half that revenue. You're still going to be walking away with 3K a month. Like that's pretty nice, right? With all expenses considered, you'd be walking away with a decent amount of money every single month as long as it's consistent. And that's why the arbitrage model is key. So there's what's called Airbnb arbitrage. And Airbnb arbitrage is a business model that allows you to basically work with somebody's unit, right? Let's say you go into an apartment complex and you ask them like, "Hey, can I rent your unit? But I want to rent it as a business." You're not gonna say you want to rent it to Airbnb it because a lot of tenants don't like that. They rather he come as professional as possible, and it makes more sense to come that way, right? And that's what I did when I was searching for units. We presented ourselves as a property management business. Say, hey, we list properties as a business, and we offer short-term rentals as an opportunity for business travelers to have a temporary place to stay when they're visiting the area. Is this something that you'd be open to working with us on, right? And then we explain to them how it supports their business because we'd have consistent rentals, consistent income, and we clean after every guest, so it would maintain the quality of the property. Basically, creating a more seamless transition if we decide not to do business anymore. That's how I was pitching to a lot of these owners is that we were going in and we'd spin it because you show up to the doorstep and you're like, hey, well, I want to just start an Airbnb business. A lot of old school tenants are going to shut down. Like they're just going to shut it down right away because they know about Airbnb and like they hear horror stories about Airbnb parties and this and that. And so and at that point they don't really know much about it, right? So it's really important to know how you're going to approach them when you're going into arbitrage. And when it comes to Airbnb arbitrage, you're basically renting a unit. Say it's 1,200, and then you're going to put it in Airbnb and you're going to rent it based off of a nightly rate divided by your actual month days of the month. So right now, if let's say for example, I have 1,200 a month in rent, I'm gonna take that 1,200 and I'm gonna divide it by 30, right? So let's say I divide that by 30. I'm looking at $40 a night. So if I charge at $40 a night and I book every night, I'm gonna make that money. But that's not what I want to do. I want to make profit and cover the rent. So what people do in this case is they charge $80 a night. So they charge $80 a night, and at $80 a night, they will cover their rent at literally 15 days of it being booked. So now that the rent is paid, any day they book after that is profit. Now, ideally, when you do those numbers, you're not really making much after 15 days, and that's halfway through the month. So in this case, you would raise it to $100 a month or $120 a month. So it only takes you 7 days to pay the rent, and then the other 7 days you're making profit. And if you don't make any more, if you don't take any more bookings after that, you're not worrying about the fact that your rent needs to be paid and the overhead needs to be covered. You've already covered it in 7 days. And that's all based off determining what your monthly rent is, right? You need to know that first. So whenever you're going into arbitrage of property, you need to know exactly how much your property is going to be. And based off of that, we'll teach you how to do the calculations and how to project it, right? And that's something I'm going to be sharing with you on today's call. I'm going to dive into some sauce of how I found profitable units to help generate over six figures, specifically in the market of Mexico. And that all happened within a year. So, but for now, I'm giving you a general basis of the model and what we did, right? We went into the arbitrage thing. Preferably, when I went into arbitrage, I found that it did become a little expensive, especially when you're dealing with luxury properties. Our first unit that we went into was about 2,300 a month, and it was a four-bedroom luxury unit in Tulum. And basically, it was a high maintenance unit, and it cost about 300 to maintain the pool and the garden, and it costs about 700 for electricity because electricity is expensive in Mexico. So we were looking at a total around 3,300 a month. On top of that, we were running into issues where the pool started to decay and it was a foundational problem. And, it was stuff that was out of our control. And we realized, like, man, you think that it's all nice and easy. You get into these type of businesses and you just make money. No, their problems are going to come, guys. You just have to be prepared for it. And my goal is to share with you what I've experienced and, things to avoid, and also what would make more sense for you guys, right? For those of you who want to get into this business and have very little money now, there's ways for you to make money with this. I'm going to show you exactly how with co-hosting. And then if you have some capital and you want to get into this, I'm going to show you how to find the right properties so you're not actually going into deals that are going to end up costing you, right? Because I've dealt with that, right? I've lost tens of thousands in Airbnb. Like, be upfront with you. That's where I kind of learned about money, and I learned about, dealing with money and losing money, right? I learned how not to make investments, and how to be patient. That's what it taught. Airbnb taught me patience and leverage. But truth be told, I'm grateful I went through all of that because if I hadn't have gone through that, I wouldn't have, experienced that, right? All my experiences are I'm grateful for. Now, as we dive into the Airbnb arbitrage deal, right? This is something you guys can do as you're working a 9 to 5, because you simply just have to build the systems, and I teach you how. And whenever you guys want to get into this business model, I highly, highly, highly recommend, based on my experience, starting close to you. Start in a neighborhood close to you. That way you can be around it. That way you can also be there to put out fires and you can learn it, right? Because it's one thing to get into a business that you're not too familiar with, you're just learning, and have it hundreds of miles away from you. Like, you have no control at that point, and it's gonna fail very quickly. So I'm gonna be showing you guys how to find that, and we'll go through that exercise later on this call. What can you Airbnb, right? I go over this in all these videos. They're very short clipped, 1 to 2, some 3 minutes. So when you guys have the opportunity, go through all of this. I'm not going to dive into every detail today. I'm going to go over the most important, right? Because I want to give you guys an intro to this. And if you guys want to learn more about Airbnb, you want me to dive deeper, I'd be more than happy to. We'll just continue to, put those up on the calls for you guys to vote every week. So you guys can rent residential properties, vacation rentals, unique properties, co-host services. Airbnb Lux. Those are the type of Airbnb properties you can have, right? And the type of services that you can offer, right? Because Lux is like very luxury. We tried dealing with Lux. They're a pain. It's difficult to get a hold of them. Their customer service sucks. Be completely honest. And it's just a pain. Like we were dealing with luxury properties and we were trying to list on Lux, but it's terrible. They only have a support team. You can't call them and you can only email them and they take weeks to respond. So we didn't really tap into Lux, but it is an option. And then there's the co-hosting, unique properties. Those are the ones you're looking about, like people who rent yachts. They rent like houseboats, villas, tree houses. Those are unique. Vacation rentals are just like houses, short-term rental in local places, whether it be a neighborhood or a suburban area. It's all preference, guys, and choosing where to Airbnb, right? So if you're getting started, right, you want to lean into local expertise, like I was telling you. Start close to your home, be hands-on, and then build the experience managing the unit yourself. And determine if the market is suitable for groups, families, and again, I'm going to show you how to do all of that. This is how you narrow down the location to help you identify the best opportunities for your market. And it's important factor in identifying your specific niche, guys. Right? You can't get started with this without understanding that stuff and knowing whether it's right for you, right? Especially in your neighborhood. So there's hosting and co-hosting, right? The hosting, like I said, you can guys can arbitrage. You can rent directly. You can use your own property that you own and you rent. And then there's co-hosting. Which one do I recommend? Preferably I prefer co-hosting. Why? Because I got into co-hosting at high ticket and I made just as much as a host did with their own property and I had no overhead. So I found a cheat code. I found how to leverage, right? And I'll show you some numbers later on, really how I was able to drive six figures to just one property alone. And, we profited 20% per booking, right? And there was no rent. We covered no rent expenses. We covered no maintenance expenses. It was just the operating costs, right? Which was, the website and the Airbnb listings and really just mainly like the pricing tools and strategies that we use. Like we would cover those costs, but it wasn't much. But our expenses were very little using this business model. So I enjoyed co-hosting for the simple fact that I've dealt with having the unit directly and dealing with those expenses. It was very expensive and it cut bottom line. And there's unpredictable things that happen, guys. It just genuinely happens. Unpredictable stuff that can happen when you're being a host. So that's why I picked this because I lost the money doing the hosting and I realized like this is the ticket. This is, you can build a massive business with this without costing you any money whatsoever. Like you don't have to worry about furnishing. All you need to figure out is where am I gonna find people who want to let me co-host, um, and so forth, right? All right, so I'll cover that, but we're gonna skip that part. I'm gonna get right into the business structure. So you guys are starting a business, right? You're starting an Airbnb business. I cover this. Now, when you're getting into property management, you want to use very specific names. Like our business name is E&A LLC, right? It's very general, right? Property management. And basically, we cover, luxury villas. We offer short-term rental management. This was one of the villas that we were managing. We offer concierge services down there as well, right? We offer private drivers, massage, yachts, chefs, the whole nine, right? That's just upsell in our business, and it helps also create more profitability. And then we also offer social media and marketing services where we have advertisements that we run for our clients if they want to market their unit because we know how to drive know how to drive traffic, right? So these are the three places we operate from mainly. But this is just to give you guys an idea of like the website that we have and all the services that we have. And like for those of you who are looking to get into this, you don't need to have anything super fancy like we have. You just need a one pager that when you're going to pitch to landlords, they're going to ask you for your website. They're going to want to see what you're doing, right? So we did partner with some businesses in Tulum. Our business partner owns Tulum Luxury Homes, and he is the one who pretty much puts together uh, like the blueprint for where we're gonna go get luxury villas. I do the analytics, I run the numbers, the data, and I also will be able to determine whether the traffic will kick in that area for that particular unit, and we green light it. So it's a partnership there. And then we work with this group for all the luxury restaurants in that area to offer services. And as you can see, my business partner and I run this together. But as you can see, our website just covers overview. We have all our menus here, right? This is all our services with our prices. It's super professional, guys. We've been doing this for a couple years now. So again, you're not gonna have anything crazy like this to start. It took a couple years to build it to this and to network. We were on the ground getting all these prices, negotiating with yachts. Like we have access to yachts all across the Caribbean, in Mexico, private chefs, right? Drivers, we have connections with drivers. Anytime anyone is in Mexico, like we have a driver that can take you anywhere. We handle all of that. Bartenders, anything you could think of, guys, we've built that network. It all came down to outreach, and I'll teach you guys how to do the outreach here. And again, these are all additional services to add value to the business, right? So these are the portfolio of the yachts that we have available, right? We deal directly with broker services, so we work with the owners and we get 30% cut. So, right, as you can see the prices here, 30% of uh, a $1,200 deal is pretty good money, and we do nothing. We just bring the client. And most people who book with us, they want to get yacht service, right? Especially in the summer. It is the easiest money I ever made was the yacht services. Um, and we do a lot of administrative stuff, guys, right? We offer services beyond that, right? Short-term rental management, lease agreements, analysis, rent negotiation, and taxes, guys. We work with a tax lawyer in Mexico. In the United States, I mean, I show you guys in the campus how to handle taxes for Airbnb. So we'll cover that. But it's very different in another country, and we have a professional there that's doing that. And social media management, right? We help with all the listing, right? I actually I do website building. I've been doing website building for over 7 years. So I actually built this website myself, right? I built all my company websites. I built all these flyers. Like I'm very well versed with a lot of this stuff, my e-commerce background. But this is why I offer these services, right? Because we can also work with people to offer this and help them. Everything is an upsell, right? When you're building your business, guys. All right, so menus, right? So this is really just to give you guys an idea of, right, when you're getting a website started, that's what it should look like. Two, what business model you get into is property management. Now, even though we're dealing with more of the real estate stuff, reason we're picking property management is because this code applies to businesses that manage residential properties, like short-term rental properties, like vacation homes and Airbnb listings. So why it's a low risk? It focuses on property management without financial ownership or high liability activities. This includes tasks like coordinating maintenance, managing bookings. Guys, think about that. You're still in the real estate market. You're still dealing with residential properties, but on the books you look like you're low risk. But if I was to go to the bank and tell them, hey, we're doing we're in real estate and we do X, Y, and Z Airbnb, they're gonna be like, real estate? No, you don't want to tell them that. You want to give them this exact code when you're getting your business started, this LLC. So I give you guys what we used to be a low risk. This is the exact code we use as a property management for those of you who want to get into this business because it's the lowest risk NAICS code that I've found and that we are currently using, right? So these activities include managing guest check-ins, checkouts, coordinating cleaning, maintenance services, overseeing property and operational needs, right? This keeps you away from considered high-risk business when starting Airbnb because when you get into Airbnb, guys, you're going to need business funding, right? You're gonna need business funding. That'll help you scale up your business and help you, if you're looking to get into, the arbitration and deal directly with renting, you're gonna need some capital to pay for rent in the first few months, and to furnish, etc. Right? And that's what the capital is for. But now that you got your business established, right? You know what code to use for LLC. We've covered pretty much what you can Airbnb, what co-hosting and hosting is. Um, how we set up our website basically to provide services and help share to landlords like, hey, this is how we work. Like we are professional, right? Because again, if you go and show up to a landlord and you're asking them, hey, um, I would like to Airbnb a unit, it's not going to work out. And I give you guys a script here, right? The exact script. I show you guys step by step where to find landlords to pitch to. Like you'll just follow these steps in this campus, and then you're basically going to copy and paste. You're going to copy and paste this, right? This was the exact thing I used, guys, to reach out to all these landlords. So you can use that as well. And then I cover contracts in here and how those are important. So be sure to review those. And then profile setup. The profile setup is key. It's easy, but I walk you through it step by step. Again, I'm not gonna walk you through that because it's detailed. You guys can read through this when you guys have the opportunity. But the profile setup is straightforward. Now, this is the fun part. This is where you guys, I think, is excited. This is my favorite, like where to find properties and how to find properties, right? So I'm actually gonna leave it open to you guys real quick. Have you guys been, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. I had to make sure you guys see my screen. Um, I'm gonna leave it open to you guys. I want you guys to give me an area, a neighborhood that I can analyze. I'm gonna analyze it right now, real time, show you guys how to find profitable unit.
Michigan,
Michigan. All right, give me a neighborhood.
East Point.
East Point. All right, cool. So now, guys, we're on Airbnb, all right? To analyze a property, right? Let's say you guys wanna, you're East Point, Michigan, and I'm just gonna do a search for just random units, right? Just like this. So now that we're in East Point, Michigan, right? I'm gonna show you how to leverage the information that's on Airbnb to find out the unit is profitable. Because this is an exercise that every single one of you who want to get into this business, you need to get good at this. I promise you. I promise you because the last thing you want to do is get into a unit that's 50-50, right? You want to get into a unit that's no brainer. Like this makes a lot of sense. Like even in the worst months, it's making some money. Like that's the type of property we're looking for here, right? So I'm going to show you step by step how we're doing that. So now that we pulled up East Point, there's a couple things that I always do, right? I always look for a couple things, right? So there's two things I do. I always filter the units. Why? I filter it by guest favorites to see how many are favorited in this market. There's quite a bit. There's about 807 units that are favorited. Now, I'm going to start with the big dogs, right? Let's start with the 6 bedrooms and above. There's only 14 of them there, right? There's only 14 6 bedroom and above in East Point, right? Michigan. And as you can see, they're running for about 200 a night, 294 a night, etc. And they're guest favorites. A lot of them have like nice gyms. I mean, you can see the quality of these properties, the 6 bedrooms, right? They're massive, right? Now we're talking units that are potentially going to cost you, 3, 4, 5,000 a month. So we're going to click on this one guest favorite here, right? This is the highest ticket one. I want to see specifically, let's say I want to get into this market. I want to do the big dogs because this is the type of units we're doing in Mexico, right? We're doing anything from a 4 bedroom to a 12 bedroom, right? Those are the type of units that we're managing in Mexico. So, how do I know if this unit's making money? One, look at the reviews. Like it's got so many reviews and it's 5 starred. Typically, when you look at it, you want to see what features it's offering, right? And it's got 62 amenities. 62 amenities. And when I look at the calendar, I'm looking to see over the next 3 weeks to 6 weeks, do we have at least 20% occupancy, right? And what do I mean by that? We've got 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks. There's only one booking out of the 21 days. That's not a 20% occupancy. What you're looking for is at least 4 days booked. That's 20% out of the 21 days, right? Now, when we look 6 weeks out, yeah, there's a couple weekends here that are booked. So when we look at the ticket of this unit, right, it's 1,100 per night. So we're gonna go and pretend that from the 18th to the 19th, we're gonna pretend that we're gonna book from the 11th to the 13th. That's a $3,000 weekend for this particular client, right? Or this particular host. They're gonna be making about $3,000 on this weekend. So right now they got 6,000 in revenue coming for this high ticket unit, which is not bad, right? So, and we're looking at next month, right? We haven't even gotten through halfway through the month of March, and they're already making 6K in revenue. So if their rent right now is 6K, they've profited. Now they've already covered their rent. Now they just need to keep booking, right? Each weekend. And this is where pricing strategy is going to be important, right? So now that we've looked to see how much they can make and whether they're getting booked, we'll keep looking. I mean, look at their May schedule. Guys, every weekend they're booked. Every weekend. This is pretty decent, right? Right? They're gonna need to fix their pricing strategy here because they're not getting weekday bookings, but it could be a weekend market, right? And those are all details that I have to teach you guys, and that's where it gets really advanced. But for right now, I'm showing you guys, okay, how do I find a profitable market? Like, how do I know what makes sense? So now that we found that, we've determined that this unit itself is doing pretty decent, right? When were they last booked? 2 weeks ago was a frequent one. December, November, right? 1 week ago, they just had one. Guys, this is called reverse lookup. I'm reversing all this information to find out more about the unit. So now that I see they've got 1 week, 2 weeks, I mean 1 week, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, guys, they've been booked like every week. Hence why they're a guest favorite with all these reviews. All right, you guys seeing what I'm seeing? It's literally they're telling you that they're booked. The information is telling you that they're booked. We're looking at what Airbnb reviews and data is telling us, as well as the calendar, to help predict what that market's doing. Because there's another step after this. After we do all of this, then we go into AirDNA, and then we're going to search up what the market says that the market does, right? And that's a whole different process. We're going to do forecasting using what the market says that the unit's supposed to do. And then we're going to do comparative analysis. So if the unit is doing well, the market says it's going to do well, you got a winner. But if the unit's doing well and the market says it doesn't, you may have a unit that's doing well there, but the rest of the market is not good, right? You want to have both meet because there are times where you're going to run into the forecaster saying that it's a good market, but all the units in the market aren't doing well at all. And that's why we're doing two forms of competitive analysis. But as you scroll down, guys, they're booked all throughout the year, right? And this is the stuff that I look for and I study when I'm looking at all of these units, right? And it's very, very important, guys, that when you look at amenities too, like I'm going to show you how powerful one amenity is. So let's say I go and I find that these guys have, right? They don't even have a gym, right? I don't see a gym here. I don't see any gym amenities. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back and I'm going to filter this whole place by a gym. Boom. So I just went from 13 units to 2 units. Now, do you see how you can quickly differentiate yourself? Because the moment you're missing an amenity, you easily lose one client, right? You may potentially lose a group of them that are looking for that specific thing there. So we're gonna click on gym, and now that we found the only units with gyms, right? Let's see how they're doing because they're in the same neighborhood. They're in the same neighborhood. So I'm clicking on this and I'm looking for the same stuff, guys. I'm not changing. anything that I'm looking at, I'm always looking at the reviews, how frequent they were. I'm looking at their calendar. What's the percentage of bookings in the next 6 weeks? Because ultimately that's going to indicate whether it's something that's anticipated. Is it busy, right? Because if it's a busy neighborhood, right, they got a little hot tub in there. So same thing here. A lot of reviews. 4.9, their guest favorite, super host, right? They're doing really well when it comes to service. All right, 78 amenities. So they have even more amenities at a lower ticket. So let's take a look at their calendar, right? So they're getting booked every weekend as well, right? As you can see, over the next 3 weeks, they've got one, two, three, four. They're already 20% booked. It's a decent market right now, guys. You're looking at this guy's making a roughly 500 a weekend. So it's 1,000 a week, um, or 1,000 every couple of weeks right now as we speak. Um, And when we look at March, he's booked one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I mean, he's already he's making about 3,300 and then over the next week just off of this month alone, and we don't know what he was booked here. And how do we find out whether he was booked or not? Oh, crap my light out. We'll find out if he was booked or not by again going to his reviews. See when he was last booked. Are you guys seeing where I'm coming from, right? You have to literally study the data and knowing what to look for is very important, right? This 3 weeks ago looks like it was the most recent one. And then also keep in mind that not everyone leaves a review, right? Not everyone. So it's not always 100%, but it's the closest you guys are going to get to finding out whether there's traffic, whether it's a promising market, right? I'm not seeing as frequent reviews as the other unit, even though I'm seeing bookings, right? Now, there's also a flip side to this because they could have had a 1 month booking, and that's why we're not seeing frequent ones. It happens, guys. We have people who want to do a 1 month stay, right? But here's also another good sign. Rare find. This place is usually booked. That means, guys, they're pretty booked, right? They're getting bookings. This is looking pretty good here. And so far, right, Selena, like bringing this up, the market is looking all right. Like, and we've only hit the high ticket units. Guys, this is the high ticket. Remember, there aren't that many when it comes to these type of units, right? So when we unfilter the gym, there's only 13 of them, guys. Hence why they're getting pretty decently booked.
Yeah, and then I do know that downtown Detroit, like all the houses are getting rebuilt, so it's going to be a lot of revenue.
Absolutely. So when we now dive into another niche. Let's do two bedrooms. All right, let's see how many one bedrooms. So there's 615 one bedrooms. Guys, do you think it's a good idea to get into a one bedroom in this neighborhood?
No.
Let's find out, right?
Well, yeah, you can.
We can. We got the guest favorites. So let's filter out the guest favorites. Let's filter the best ones. Let's see what one bedrooms have a gym. How many have a gym? The reason I picked gym, guys, is not common to find gyms in a lot of places. 17. Let's see how those are doing. All right. Let's pick this guy. All right. He's got 5-star review, 25 reviews. All right. 44 amenities. Not bad. Right? Not bad. This guy's getting booked for a one bedroom, but he's got a gym. All right. He's got a gym. How frequent are we seeing reviews? 1 week, 1 week, 1 week. Today, one day. Oh, man. He's getting booked. Are you guys seeing the same signs I'm seeing? This is how you find out. Does this make sense? So this is an exercise you'll take into your own neighborhood, guys. Just search your neighborhood. Just type it into the search bar anywhere, type in where you want to look, and that's where you'll start searching. And you'll use this one method to start determining which market makes sense for you. What's your budget, you know? And two, when I tell you guys to reach out, to do outreach, we're looking at people like him and you're gonna look to see if he has any co-hosts, which he doesn't. He has no co-hosts, guys. He's doing it all on his own. How many units does he have? So I click on his profile. He's got one unit. I would reach out to this guy. I would message him from the app and say, "Hey, I'm, you know, property looks really nice. Hey, I was just wondering, I run a co-hosting business or property management business. Are you interested in anyone managing your property for you?" Right? And that's it. That's outreach, guys. You literally message the host right here, just like this. That's how you find people, guys, right? And you can manage. So, for example, this unit here, let's say it was 100% booked, right? At 90 a night, right? You're going to be looking at a potential, say at 93 a night, look about 3K, around 3K a month. So this unit will bring in 3K a month. So at 3K a month, right? And you doing 20% commission, you're making about 100 and so 3K a month times. You're making about 600 bucks, guys, every month on this unit with no overhead. Now imagine you had five of those units, making you $600 a month with no rent, no overhead. You don't need credit, don't need funding. You understand? That's the co-hosting model that we tapped into. That's how we started leveraging other people's properties, aka other people's money, right? Airbnb taught me leverage, guys. And I'm grateful for it, right? Because of course, I had to lose some money to learn this valuable lesson, right? And it's key. But I know how to tap into any market, and that's based off of the skills that I've learned over the last couple of years. All right. So now that we found those three proper, right? 17 in the area, but these three are the ones that have the gym, right? I'm gonna check another one real quick. This one's got 1 week booking. It's not as booked as the other one, right? And here's where we determine why. I mean, guys, what are your thoughts on these photos?
Didn't really put enough effort into it, not enough effort.
All right, it's not looking good, man. It's
I
not
mean, he
looking good.
tried, but
Like, what's going on with this stuff? You understand, guys? There's no even like trash bag in the. There's no trash bag in the. Like it's just
no
there's no
decorations.
aesthetics.
Like,
There's nothing like. And guys, these details people look at, right? The living room photos are a little bit better, but now that you see this unit, he's getting a little bit booked. Obviously, his reviews are not as good as the other one, right? And this is competitive analysis. This is who you're competing with. So if you know who's the best in your market, you need to be just as good as them at minimum. I need you to remember that, guys. The best unit in the neighborhood you're in the neighborhood you decide to get into, you need to be just as good as them at minimum. And I'll show you some examples of how we turned our luxury properties into really um like top-notch villas, right? Like we turned them into profitable units because we took over units that were 3 stars, not generating much to six figures a year. And that's how we were able to close that deal, right? And there's a bunch of other ones that we're still waiting to close deals on, but we only focus on the ones that are going to generate high ticket because we don't go for quantity. We go for quality, guys. And that's something to keep in mind here. You never want to go for quantity. It sounds good to have 10 properties in Airbnb, but it's very easy to have a 4.0 star review as a profile. You understand? It's very easy. And I guard that at all costs because it sticks with you, especially with every property you take and every property you list. So as you can see why this property is getting more because I mean, look how high quality the photos are. Look how well put together the aesthetics. Right? Professional workspace. I mean, it's just a world of a difference, guys. Versus that other guy, mediocre listing. Like, if I was to go into this guy's property and with a professional photo camera, like he can turn it into a more competitive unit by simply updating his photos. Your photos are everything, right? And I'm going to show you why. We do everything professionally, right? I'm going to show you some listings. I work with some of the units that we manage as well as the ones we have directly. So these are a bunch of the listings. So um, these two is currently still active. right? As you can see, the reviews here are pretty high, right? 22 reviews. The photos are very clear. The HDR, the aesthetics, it's really well put together. Angles, right? They get to see every corner of the room. There's no real surprise here, guys. Every angle of the room, of the house, the home, right? There's no surprise here, right? Same thing with this one. This one's a 3 bedroom in Tulum, and everything comes down to color aesthetics, guys. How you take the photos. We have a private chef, right? All our services come like this. We took these professionally. We orchestrated this photo shoot and we went through all of this, right? And people like to see units with people in it. And you notice how we have the details at the bottom, dining room with patio view, right? We've got details here, literally giving people the picture. Guys, we go above and beyond. Like we don't just like take basic pictures and post them and expect people to book them. We give them the whole picture. Hey, this is how you will be if you're there. This is what you're gonna enjoy. You're gonna enjoy this food. You enjoy the pool, right? We had people in the pool. We have Taj Mahal where people can come here and do meditation and breath work and all sorts of things, right? It's very therapeutic, right? It's a very jungle vibe. There's bikes available. We have a high overview of the property and the complex it's at, right? We cover everything, and then the photos are organized, right? This is key. This is key. You also have this property here. We also did a professional photo shoot for this one. We hired a chef as well as some models. Because guys, everything should have life, right? You guys are seeing what I'm talking about, right? Everything should have life. This particular unit here would rent for anywhere from like 200 to 600 a night, depending on the season, right? We make them all professional. Like it's the highest quality stuff you're gonna find, and you have to you have to do it like this, guys, because your competition, right? Even at night, we did lighting on purpose. We added the lighting in the backyard. We hired the chef. We've got all of this stuff orchestrated. This is the complex it's in. We added all the amenities that are in the complex that the guests can use, right? It's a lot of photos, but now they know everything, even where the entrance is, guys. Like you have to cover everything when it comes to these listings and these units. The photos are key. Photos are key, right? And this was our most popular. This one that generated the most. It's the most beautiful villa, right? And as you can see, we went back, we re-edited these photos, we took all these angles, right? All of this stuff had to be redone. Everything you see, right? We hired these models, we had these models over again, like everything we put people there for a reason, right? Because what is it? It's FOMO, fear of missing out. Most people they see themselves there already when other people are there. I mean, how many guys watch videos on the internet where people are eating at a restaurant and the food looks good and you're like, damn, I wish I could be there. It's the same idea, the same concept, same exact concept, right? That's my business partner. Again, we took all of these photos for aesthetics. All these photos are for aesthetics, guys. That the drive, right? It's a 5 bedroom. And this unit did really well, actually. Click on a listing here. This year, that last year, this is how much this one generated about 2024. Yeah, I did 198,000. That's just like that's yeah, and gross earnings 103, right? Then we had other units that did about 24. right? And others did about 30. So all in all, like there was a lot of earnings, right? If you all is paid, right? 25, this one did 25,000, this particular unit, right? All the transactions. So guys, like there's money to be made when it comes to Airbnb. But when you're dealing with big ticket guys, and what I'm trying to explain is, guys, I was making 20% of these tickets. So when you're looking at this $2,000 booking, like I'm making 20% of that, right? Let's do the math. Times 0.20. That's $460 in one booking. I've spent no money, right? And we were doing about 10K a month. So I was bringing in about 2K a month with no overhead. So it was all profit going to my pocket. It was revenue. I just had to drive the listings, right? And that's where I said you have to understand the market. You have to know exactly what you're doing and you need to know how to list it, right? This was one that is currently still not active, but I went through, edited this. We went through all of the aesthetics, right? I edited some of the photos, we organized the listing, we covered all the details. This one's in Texas, right? Everything has to be organized, guys, and it has to be like to the point where people know what to expect when they get there, right? There's a stadium there, right? They can go to the game. It's right near East downtown Houston. That's the ticket. That's the key, guys. Right? And then when I tell you guys, you don't need to go into this with any money. And the reason why I chose co-hosting, because I just shown you guys. I shown you guys myself that I went into this specifically. Where is it? I went into this specifically to make money, not to spend it, right? Because if I was going into this business, I originally went into it with the idea of ownership, and ownership doesn't mean anything. Because as we talk about what we go through in the community, we're dealing with control everything, own nothing. Because ownership is just a facade. Ownership is just a way for people's egos to be stricken, right? Like you don't really want to own anything because now you take liability for it. Same way I took liability for the units that I had, right? I took liability for all the expenses it came with. Yes, it made money, but I didn't really make that much because it was all going back to the expenses. Now, how did I figure a solution around that? I leveraged. And the key is to leverage and leverage at a high scale because you can leverage and have 10 units making you $300 a month. That's 3,000 a month, guys, at 10 units. Or you can have 5 units making 600 a month. That's 3K a month still, right? And that's the ticket. That's a ticket I'm trying to share with you guys. So there's also another tool, right? Because now I covered pretty much how to find out, which markets would make sense. There's this tool called AirDNA. And AirDNA covers the forecast and the projections, right? And what was the neighborhood again, Selena? What neighborhood was it? Trying to remember. It was Michigan. Where in Michigan?
Oh, um, I said East Point, but actually Detroit because it's the same.
East Point. All right, I was trying to remember. Crap. Just want to browse, right? All right, AirDNA was my best friend, guys. I lived off this thing for a whole summer. I was just mastering this. So I'm actually gonna search. Michigan. Apply. So when you look at the Michigan area, right, as a whole, the average revenue is 37,000, 50% occupancy, and the average daily rate is 249. What does this mean? This is average, guys. So from top to bottom, what this means is you have units that are doing anywhere from like 70 to 90K, and then you have units that are making anything, right? And that's what averages this number out, right? So it's not going to cover everything. So when we look at the peak season, what do you guys notice here? You notice that everything goes up. Hold on, let me mute this. You notice that everything goes up in May and August, and it starts to dip in September. That's your peak season. That's where people are making their money, and then it drops. But this is where the most important season is, right here. This is where you have to be really good at Airbnb, guys. If you can maintain low season, your high seasons are gonna like they're just gonna put tons of money in your pocket because it's easy to go from making 2, 3K a month to nothing. We maintained 50 to 60 across the whole board, guys. That's how we did six figures in that unit. We maintained consistent bookings every single month. Our worst month, I believe we did 40%, but we were still booked in a slow season. We were booked in months that people didn't usually book for it because we knew how to analyze the market, we knew how to brand it, and we knew how to maintain um high SEO finding, right? Because it all comes down to the algorithm. So when you look at these numbers, right, it's telling you the market score is 43, which is actually pretty low, guys. You wanna have a market score of 60 or higher, right? 70 is ideal, but 60 or higher. For the simple fact that this type of market, it looks saturated. I mean, you saw when we were looking at East Point, all of the one bedrooms that were there. That's the same problem we have in Tulum, Mexico. Tulum, Mexico's market, about 43% of the market is one bedrooms. That's absurd. If you were to even think about going into a one bedroom in Tulum, you would struggle if you don't have the best and most convenient unit. If your unit doesn't have a gym, it's not right next to the party spots, it's not convenient, it's not high class, it's not affordable, it's not competitive, you're done. You're not gonna make any money. So that's why this is important, guys. That's why I wanted to dive into the market research because we can do another call like this and dive even deeper. But there's so much to go over. I want to cover like the most important stuff. And this is the general basis. Again, I cover this in the course, right? Going through Air DNA, right? I explain to you guys here and I tell you what to look for, right? What to search for. I cover everything because ultimately the goal here is to understand how to do this, right? And there's sub markets we can dive into that will tell you a little bit more, but without you guys having to pay for this, right? Ideally, I use this for over like high level market research, right? And this is something that I think as you guys are getting started, you're gonna have to get comfortable with. It's not easy to understand at first, which is understandable. It's like anything new, but you need this if you want to get into Airbnb. Like I promise you, it's key. There's a bunch of other tools you can use, but this is the best. Airbnb is the most underrated because they have all the information in front for you, right? You don't need to look anywhere else, right? You don't need to look anywhere else. So we're gonna switch to right. So this is a little bit of that, right? What am I wanting to do? That's not it. So in regards to managing listings, guys, right? Creating an Airbnb profile is one of the few things you're gonna need to do, but I cover exactly why it's important for you to set it up properly. And then I cover photos too. right? I share with you guys examples of photos and how that's important, but all that stuff is here, right? The titles, the descriptions, right? I have a checklist here for you. You guys, when you guys are wanting to actually furnish your unit, like when you're using essentials, and this is for people who want to invest in it, the checklist is here. I made this from my experience. I made this so that you guys can have a tool to start with. You don't have to go find it. This was actually the first villa that we had that, like I said, our pool ended up falling apart from the inside out, right? Start falling apart from the inside out. But this is one of the very first Tulum listings we had. But I cover all the descriptions, the titles, why the titles are important, how it separates you from everyone else. Because if you pay attention to this title, guys, what does it say? It says exotic paradise, 4 bedroom villa, balcony, 2 pools, and a barbecue. I just gave everybody an idea of what the unit has to offer in just the title alone. I'm covering exactly what is going to make you different from everyone else. Because when you start looking at your competition and you're taking notes from what I'm teaching you, you're quickly going to realize that none of them are doing this stuff. This is why we were able to be successful with getting bookings. This ultimate cheat code, guys, right? 5 stars and reviews are ticket to getting more bookings. Guys, the more 5 stars you get, the more reviews, the the more the Airbnb is going to push your listing. Why? Because Airbnb only wants to make money, but they only want to make money and help those who are making money if they are giving good service. So if you're giving good service, they're going to push you first. If you're getting frequently booked, they keep pushing you first. If you have high quality pictures, your listing is very detailed and easy for people to understand, they're gonna push you first, right? You've got to hit all of these guys. Everything that I'm teaching you is just like the credit repair stuff. It's technical. It's all technical, guys. Like high quality photos, best angles, night shots, day shots, like I was showing you. Guys, you've seen what I'm doing. I didn't I'm not just telling you guys this. I was doing this stuff. We added all these things, right? This walk path lighting, the jungle lighting, we added all of that stuff. That stuff wasn't there when we got there, guys. I need you to understand that. It's all about making it unique. And that's why when you're searching for Airbnbs and you're searching listings and you're looking through a lot of these units, right? You're searching for units that are profitable, right? Like I'm just gonna, for example, click Playa del Carmen, right? I'm just gonna filter again a gym. It's 1,000 places, right? I'm gonna filter one with a beachfront, waterfront, say breakfast, right? And a pool and a hot tub, right? Let's say I want all the finest things, right? That is a guest favorite. There's none that are guest favorites with all that. Now we're down to literally all the most expensive units. But this is how it works. You filter things out, and the unit here that is offering all that stuff has no reviews yet. So they're offering all these things and they're not getting booked. Why? Because I think their price is ridiculous for a 2 bedroom. Guys, we're charging this for a like we weren't even charging this for our villa. Like that villa I showed you guys that did 6 figures, our average nightly rate was anywhere from 800 a night to 2,000 a night. And it was 5 bedrooms with private pool. You see how your price can screw you up? I'm not surprised he's not getting any bookings. But that's just the reality. He doesn't know what he's doing. Truth be told, if you guys see potential in this type of unit, right, you can go message this guy and say, hey, look, hey, I noticed you didn't have any bookings. Hey, I offer this service. What are your thoughts? We work on a partnership and, we only charge X amount of what we bring you, right? There's no upfront fees. Like you can pitch them like this, guys. And now you can literally he can add you as a co-host, right? See, Catherine's a co-host. Adam can add you as a co-host, and then you can go in and have access to doing things. You can go in and edit the photos. You can help, bring some light to a lot of the amenities that he has, do some editing, right? This dude's nuts charging 3,500 a night for this type of unit. Like, I don't think he wants to get booked. But that's just an example, right? Get rid of all this other stuff. You notice that breakfast also, not many places are offering breakfast. So in this market, if you're offering breakfast, I mean, these are the high ticket units. If you're offering breakfast, but none of them are getting booked, like they hardly getting any reviews, guys. Notice this. If you can hit the market and understand that, right? They had a booking a week ago, 1,700 a month, right? That's not too bad. Yeah, two reviews. I mean, it looks decent. I know where this building is. Right? I know the Playa market, guys. The Playa market is decent. Like it's got like there's not that many villas. And if you do have a villa in Playa close to the beach, you're making money. You're making a killer. The money makers are right by the beach. It's always that way, right? The money makers are right by the beach, right? I live around here along Central of Playa del Carmen. But, like this is just to show you guys how looking at the markets is going to help you determine whether it makes sense for you, right? So again, if you're in your own neighborhood, just search it up, Boston, or if you're looking to see, how much certain markets are charging, which units are the best, you simply use the filters. It's all process of elimination. That's all it really is, right? You use the filters. I always go with the best. I always look for guest favorite because those are the top units, right? And then you just go down the list, like which ones have the gym. And there's only 81 units. So out of the 1,000 plus units, only 81 of them have a gym. So what are you doing by working with a unit that has a gym? You're already competitive. That all making sense? You're separating yourself from the entire pool of Airbnb listings because all it takes is for all of the guests that are visiting Boston to want to go to a gym. Now you're going to be one of the first picks. Now, if you didn't have a gym, you're not even gonna end up on the search. I mean, look, you're not even on the search if you don't have a gym. They're only showing units that have a gym, right? And that's just the basics of Airbnb, guys. That is the most important right here. This market research is the most important because it will make you break your business, right? And by practicing this exercise and like diving into it and studying your market, this can change the whole game. All you need to do is strike one. You strike one unit that will make you money and you are on your way to building an Airbnb business, guys. I'm telling you. That's how it worked. That's how I ended up getting into the business, guys. Right? But I just happened to put in the work and study the market. I mastered it, right? I went through all the motions. Like I had to be on the ground. We talked with landlords, we negotiated rent, we negotiated expenses, right? What the landlord would cover. Like we went through all of that. And I teach you that too, guys, right? Net rent negotiation. Like I've been through all of it, guys. Like anything you can imagine, I've done. I'm telling you, Airbnb stuff, it's fun. You have to be ready to get into hospitality. You got to be ready to deal with people who suck. I mean, it's like retail. You work in retail, like there's gonna be some great people, amazing people, right? That you work with, and then there's people who just like, they're terrible people. They just love making people's experiences bad because that's how they feel. But that's just part of the game, right? You have to expect that, and you can't go into any business thinking it's gonna be perfect. So if any of you guys think you're gonna go in and just make a ton of money, it's gonna be easy, it's the wrong business for you. It's a lot of work. right? A lot of work, right? And I cover everything, where to find your cleaners, right? And if we want to set up another call where I dive deeper into all of this and show you how I set up my cleaners, how I train them, how we set up systems, how we put together a list of a checklist for them, right? The app works. I cover all of that because I manage these cleaners from across seas, right? Like I don't have to, and this is mainly for United States. I don't have to be there for me to know the cleaner is getting things done because they give me live updates. Right? I cover everything, guys. Right? How to optimize. Right? I have a checklist here that basically covers everything you need to check for. Right? So if your unit allows pets, do you allow pets? Do you offer cooking basics? Are you allowing at least two guests per room? Are you priced competitively? Guys, these are questions that I literally I came up with all this stuff because I needed something to figure out what I was missing. And how can I make my listing the best? And these are the tips and these are the tools that I've laid out step by step for you guys on how to search for it, right? Guys, this is how, when you search this unit I just showed you, this is number one on the search list. It was number one on the search list, guys.
You basically got to make sure you have everything.
Same thing with this one. At one point, this was on one, it was on the search list. It was number one. And mind you, look at where I had the market, the map. I have the map spread out, but it's showing up number one. Because you have to know how to set up your listing. I mean, the colors, it needs to pop. I mean, these two units are amazing. I mean, this one was near the neighborhood that we were in. I know all these villas, but like this one had a lot of reviews. It was frequently booked, decent price point, right? But you guys have to know all of these things. All these come into play when you're dealing with Airbnb. Airbnb is very technical and you have to nail everything in order for it to work for you. And what I'm teaching you guys and you apply it, it's going to work. Just like I've shown you guys the credit repair stuff, I've shown you all this stuff. It works, guys. You have to put in the work and you gotta follow everything. Because I paid thousands of dollars for the Airbnb courses I learned, guys. I learned from some of the big dogs, right? I learned from some of the big dogs. Now, Sean, he has like over 120 or 150 properties across the United States. He's doing over 2 million in a year in revenue. He does YouTube videos all the time, right? I bought his courses, mentorship, I did all of that. So this stuff that I'm sharing with you, I paid thousands of dollars for. So you guys are getting some of the best information and I applied it. And I showed you how much money could be made, right? There's money to be made, but it's all about getting into the game. You got to get into the game and if you going into this with no capital, co-hosting is the best, right? Co-hosting is the best. And you need to be on Airbnb looking for properties in your neighborhood that are doing well that don't have a co-host, right? But before you do that, you want to make sure you have a website. You want to make sure you know what neighborhood you want to be in, right? What type of units you want to deal with. Do you want to deal with villas? Do you want to deal with apartments? Like, what do you want to deal with? Because that's where you're going to start market researching. You start market researching all that stuff, you'll now start narrowing down and make sure it makes sense for you. Because you'll quickly find out that, oh yeah, I wanted to get into apartments, but then you realize, man, it's not even profitable. It's not a good idea in this neighborhood. So you're gonna now move on to homes, right? You're gonna move on to 4 bedrooms, 5 bedroom homes, right? If you're looking to co-host, I always recommend going big ticket. I always do the big ticket ones because you have less units with more money, right? And then on another call, guys, I'll show you the most important one, which is called pricing strategy. The pricing strategy is the most important. Obviously, I cover it here, right? I cover how to use price labs and why it's important. But guys, market research is one. But if you're not priced right, oh man, you're in trouble. Just like that guy I was showing you. He's getting no bookings. He's too high ticket. He's charging too much for a two bedroom. Awesome. Did you guys have any questions about Airbnb getting started? Did you guys find that helpful, interesting?
Yeah, I found it helpful for me.
Yeah, because Air, like I said, Airbnb itself, you can make money from it, right? I
So
make
you say you can co-host without no money, like starting? Because I
yes,
remember. Oh,
zero money. Guys, all you need to do is know this information that I'm teaching you here. You know this information and how to implement it, you're ready to co-host. Seriously. Trust me. You're ready to co-host. Hosting is a whole other ball game. Hosting, you gotta, what I'm saying, you're talking about, having the unit, you need to negotiate rent. You need to know, like, it's a whole nother ball game when you're doing hosting.
but co-hosting is basically like managing the homes.
Exactly. You're managing your homes virtually. All you need is a laptop and the right information, which I give you here, right? I teach you how to find your cleaners, how to outsource people who are runners on the ground, right? Because you need runners. You need people who can help you with things on the ground sometimes if your unit is further away. But I show you how to find all of that. There's apps for all of that. Co-host
Okay.
Co-hosting, you can get into it with no money, but you need to understand how Airbnb works or you won't be successful. Because remember, the host is gonna want you to bring them traffic. But if you don't know how to bring them traffic, you're not gonna make money. He's not gonna make money. He doesn't see any value in it,
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
right? So the ticket is like we did, right? We went into a unit. We convinced the owner to, right? He rented it out, and once he rented it out, he basically he covered all the expenses, all that stuff, and we did all the traffic driving. We drove all the traffic. We drove all the traffic to the unit. We were the one managing all the unit listings. We would optimize it, the pricing strategy, like the photos. We took care of everything. Like, right, we did all the administrative stuff. He would just sit back and collect at the end of the month. That was it. And we'd do, monthly updates,
That makes sense.
right? And that's how it works. That's co-hosting in a nutshell. And that's what I started to shift my Airbnb business into was the co-hosting. But we co-host high ticket luxury villas because one villa alone can bring 1 to 2K a month. And at one point we had four, right? We had four active listings at one point. So the sky's the limit. And if anyone is looking to get into Airbnb and they really want to dive into this stuff, again, don't be afraid to share because I'm more happy to dive more into this. I just wanted to share my journey, my experience, and how I was able to turn, someone else's unit into profit so that I can make income every month without having to invest in risk. Because I think it's the smartest business model.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested.
It's one of the smartest business models. But other than that, right? If you guys don't have any questions for me, I let you guys go. It's been a pleasure. Tomorrow we're going to be covering bill remittance part two. Like we're going to dive deep into round two, the disputes. I'm excited uh to go over the letter with you guys and just kind of break down the whole process. For those of you who've already implemented and are looking to proceed to round two, like I said, we've already had a student in the university get remedy on a $5,600 bill, so that's awesome. Like I'm super excited about that. But the goal is for each and every one of you to succeed, right? So that's where we're gonna continue to work on, and then Tuesday 1099 process we'll cover that. But if you guys have any questions for me, don't hesitate to drop it in the Q&A question chat, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible.
All right, thank you, Eric. Have a good night.
Awesome, guys. Have a blessed night.
Thank you.
Welcome.